Hello everyone. Welcome to the presentation of opinion mining for social networking platform. And this is a presentation on the project schedule and timeline for this project. So what is opinion mining? So opinion mining is a project based on the sentiment analysis that is being run on social media platforms for the advertisement from an advertiser regarding their product. So sentiment analysis is basically measuring the reactions and engagement on an advertiser's advertisement on a product and ultimately measuring the user's perspective regarding the brand and the product. And the advertisers or the stakeholders will ultimately use this data to come up with better products with an end goal of increasing their sales. So we are trying to create this project, and in this presentation, we are trying to create a timeline and schedule for this project. Let me give a brief introduction about this project. The project aims to develop a machine learning model for doing sentiment analysis from the data mined from social media platforms. So the ultimate core of this project is a machine learning model, and the insights generated from this project will be applied to enhance the branding strategies in the marketing industries for the company and the advertisers. So social media platforms, as you know, are a great data pool to extract the user's perceptions on various brands and products. Over the past 25 years, sentiment analysis has been really big, so that in a way that the companies use the data to come up with more personalized recommendations of advertisements that you see on a day-to-day basis. Let's discuss the core scope of the project. The scope usually involves what's the database, what's the data pool, what are the limitations that are going to come with the project, what are the assumptions that we are making, and what are we going to include. So ultimately, since this is an opinion mining project, we are ultimately going to rely on data from social media, let's say Instagram posts or stories and reels, if you're considering Instagram social media platform. The goal is to perform some kind of a machine learning model, preferably predictive analytics, to predict um, this is how the user engagement or this is how the sales of a brand is going to be using the sentiment analysis. The constraints include the availability of the data from Instagram's API, which is the API gateway that sends the data from Instagram to the advertiser. The assumptions include Instagram content provides data from the sample of the advertisements that was being run, as well as the inclusions involved, including the data collected from Instagram posts, stories, reels, any kind of user engagement activity from Instagram. For this for this project, we are only including Instagram and excluding other social media platforms like Facebook and Snapchat, etc. So the timeline of this project is going to involve a series of milestones, starting with the project initialization. So when we are going to initialize this project, we have to check these boxes like market research, conducting a research on the user base, the market share of a brand's product in order to better understand the scope of the project. And the scope is basically defined on the timeline. And following that, we are going to define the stakeholders who are going to be the customers of this project. In here, the customers are not the audience, but the brands which are going to advertise. So we are basically in this project, the resources are the users. We are basically collecting data from them and feeding that data to the advertisers for them to come up with better advertisements and better products. And resource management is nothing but the resources that are being used in the project, and the deliverables are the end products that are going to be delivered. Solution design. Let's discuss about the solution. So the solution is going to include a project framework, and the core of the framework is a machine learning sentiment model, and it is ultimately going to be designed by an architecture which will have a front and back end, a database, and um, the main component, which is the machine learning model. As I said, there will be database, there will be data intake, which is input and output components, and model planning, designing and curating the machine learning model. And security control, it's basically setting guardrails around the whole data framework and architecture. Next up, the next important milestone is engineering development. This largely speaks about the implementation of this project, starting with the project plan, in which we are going to create and implement um, a, a well thought out plan, starting from breaking down the tasks using task management milestone and allocating resources that are needed and implementing the machine learning model to perform sentiment analysis and the developmental activities that are going to be needed for implementing sentiment analysis, both front end and back end. And system implementation is basically integrating these multiple components into one larger system, which is the product itself. And throughout these steps, we are going to implement risk management um, to have some guardrails on what kind of risks that we should anticipate, and security management, implementing a security and data protection protocols. So following the implementation of the project, we are going to have a QA milestone, which will include a test plan, test definitions, model plan, model training, system testing, and feedback. So the test plan is going to have a series of test plans starting from unit testing to integration testing and sanity testing, etc. And the model training is nothing but training the model with the test data and implementing the model with the production data. And the system testing is testing the framework, front and back end databases, etc. And the feedback is basically using the test data to improve the production data using the model. Next comes the most important milestone, which is the deployment milestone. Before the deployment milestone, um, the QA milestone should make sure that the risks are anticipated and avoided, as well as the bugs and any kind of anticipatory errors are noted down. So the deployment plan include first communication to the stakeholders, followed by the beta testing, opening up to a small set of audience before launching the product in production, and production plan itself, where we have a series of on-call support and when the product is going live, and the feedback, which is the market feedback through surveys or instantaneous feedback receiving mechanisms, are an alternate or consecutive sentiment analysis itself to gather feedback and improve the model, and monitoring for any bugs, live bugs, and fixing it whenever it is needed on a high severity basis. The closeout milestone is a last milestone where we validate all the metrics and requirements for the project, and we document and report all the stages, and we define KPIs for success metrics. And the customer presentation is nothing but walking the customer through each and every one of these stages and provide them with necessary updates on what's going on. What you see here is the project schedule Gantt chart, which will give you a 360-degree view and end-to-end view of the project from start to finish, wherein we are looking at the milestone starting from the project initialization to the closeout, broken down by the timelines from start to end and the number of days it's going to take. As you can see, different milestone takes different number of days. Some important milestones like developmental milestone will take longer time period compared to the deployment and closeout. And one important information that we have to discuss is the critical path definition. Throughout this project, there are a series of multiple activities. Not all activities are of same criticality. There are certain activities where we need to look out for bugs, issues in a well thought out manner because they are highly critical. For example, activities B, C, D, E are identified as critical activities for this project, and they have slack of 0, which means any delays will ultimately delay the whole project. So we should have better risk management, better quality control and monitoring for these activities. These critical activities form the critical path, which is the longest path in the project network, which is BCDE. From starting to B activity B to the activity E, there must be a series of guardrails to watch out for, to implement and watch out for any failures. So in conclusion, the project is leveraging the machine learning model to create a sentiment analysis from a social media data to provide the brand advertisers for better marketing strategy. And we are going to implement the system integration and testing to make sure we have better risk management and anticipate any issues and prevent it before it can happen. So the project aims to bridge the gap between the engagement in social media and provide generating insights on social media for the betterment of brand marketing strategy, and using the different milestones and the resources that are required for this project. um, um, we are going to propose the whole project timeline of 2 to 4 months based on different critical components that are going to be included in this project. So the success of the projects will provide brands with a great understanding of the consumer sentiment, which will be very effective in defining their marketing strategies. Thank you very much.